Mark Zuckerberg, who? Venezuela's thrice-elected president Nicolas Maduro is now the one challenging Elon Musk to a fight. After the Venezuelan election, in which both candidates claimed victory, Musk weighed in, posting a picture on X of a graph representing turnout, captioning, quote, "The people voted overwhelmingly for Edmundo Gonzalez." He called the election a major fraud and reposted, quote, "Venezuela's socialist dictator Maduro claims he won re-election, but leaked vote tallies show Maduro lost. The saying goes, you can vote your way into socialism, you might not be able to vote your way out."
Maduro caught wind of the tech tycoon's fiery criticisms and responded by calling Musk Venezuela's new arch nemesis, then challenged him to a fight on national TV.
Elon Musk, ¿quieres pelea? Vamos a darle, Elon Musk. Estoy listo. Soy hijo de Bolívar y de Chávez. No te tengo miedo, Elon Musk. Vamos a darnos, pues, donde quiera. Como decimos en Caracas, en los barrios. Si tú quieres, yo quiero, Elon Musk. Di dónde.
Musk accepted, posting, quote, "I'm coming for you, Maduro. I will carry you to Gitmo on a donkey." X is going wild. One user posted this meme captioning, quote, "My money is on Elon Musk. All these 2024 notable fights, Musk versus Zuckerberg, Trump versus Biden in golf, Musk versus Maduro." None of them happening, by the way. Here's one more meme of the pair in a Will Smith, Chris Rock moment. Okay. We have another challenge to fight someone from Elon Musk. The Musk-Zuckerberg fight didn't end up happening, which is a good thing for Musk, much as I'm a fan of what he's done with Twitter. Zuckerberg is like a robot who has trained in all sorts of martial arts and would be a difficult person to beat in a fight. The fight between Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela, and Musk, so I looked it up. Maduro is 61. He's an older man. Musk is in his early 50s. I don't know why they need to fight. But Maduro is a despicable, reprehensible tyrant, and so if he was beaten up, that would be fine. But it doesn't seem like a constructive way to resolve or improve the problems in Venezuela. Is fight me, bro, but whatever.
As much as I want to get into what's going on with Maduro and Musk, I can't get over that you said you like what he's done with Twitter. You log on to X and you're like, I love what you've done with the place. Elon, my DMs are all like, hi, want a video chat? I'm a hot girl in your area. The bots and the robots are horrible.
Well, that was always a problem.
And all of the people paying for blue check marks just to be at the top of the comment sections, it used to be the funniest comments, and now it's the worst comments just because they paid to be there. I'm not a fan. Anyway, I couldn't get over it. But Maduro and Elon Musk fighting. I want this one to actually happen. We know that Mark Zuckerberg does some kind of special classes for defense. Judo? Is he a judo guy? He's one of those guys. Various martial arts. He knows them. Musk, not so much. Musk not built for fighting. Why say lot word when few word do trick? I think that Maduro... Maduro is someone that looks like he can fight, and I just want to know...
More so than Musk?
Are we going to get a street fight or a cage match, though? Like, is this organized, or is Elon Musk going to pull up to Crocus on the PJ?
I mean, it's not going to happen. The
the
Zuckerberg-Musk one didn't happen either.
It's not going to happen. So Elon Musk is all words here.
Well, so is Nicolas Maduro. He's the head of state. He's not going to actually fight. It's not going to happen.
I think he would.
I absolutely don't think he's not even willing to have he's so afraid of a challenge he didn't actually allow the country he runs to have a real election.
We don't know that.
Yes, we do.
We absolutely do.
We absolutely do. No. We will not be making excuses for authoritarian, anti-democratic repression just because it happens to be left-leaning, which is what I know you're doing here. No. He stole the election. He is a tyrant. We all know it. Everybody knows it. People on the left don't want to admit it because it's only bad. Stealing elections is only bad when Donald Trump tries to do it. I know that's the case, but that's what happened.
Okay, I am waiting for more information to come out, as I do with any election, before I say for certain what has happened or not. Okay. Do I think it's likely he got 70% of the vote share? It's an alarming amount. We've seen sweeping elections in the United States before, but I'm going to wait for third parties to confirm what definitely happened on election day there.
Okay.
The country is in chaos. It's no doubt that he's someone that that should not have run for as many cycles as he has. He's someone that should have let someone else take over. I could agree with all of those things.
Yes.
I'm definitely an advocate for term limits, but I'm not going to say how the country voted when I don't know for sure. I will say that I think Musk framing this as you can vote your way into socialism, but you can't vote your way out is rich. This is the guy who said we'll coup whoever we want in reference to Bolivia, which is a lithium-rich country, and he wants the lithium. This is also a guy from South Africa. I lived in South Africa for about half a year, and almost everyone I met who is someone like Elon Musk, someone who's coming from a family of people who are white South Africans who have lived there for generations. His family's moved around a lot, but there's a sense of racial disconnection that's present in South Africa that is more extreme than the United States. And the way Elon Musk talks about other countries, especially when those countries are people who are not white people, it's almost like he's entitled to the resources there because he feels like the people there don't have a right to self-determination. They don't deserve them. I'm greater than you, you are less than me. He's almost offended that the country of Bolivia is controlling their own resources. We'll coup whoever we want, as if he's entitled to the lithium under the ground in Bolivia just because he's, what, a billionaire? No, you're not entitled to other people's land or resources. I think him saying that you can vote your way into socialism, but you can't vote your way out is the same thing. He believes United States multinational corporations are entitled to the resources to free trade with the people of a country, even if they vote for someone who's explicitly said, we believe in different sort of handling of our natural resources. We don't believe US-based multinational corporations should come in and extract all of them. And so this belief that the uprising in Venezuela is not about democracy, but is instead about their economic views is a bad take. And, we've had experts on the show who have spoke to that as well just yesterday. Bernal from The Hill, who's a writer on Latin America, an expert on it, said to equate the uprising to people not believing in an economic system of socialism would be to not understand it, and that this is about democracy. It's about elections.
Well, those two things are very related because when socialist governments take hold, the first thing they do is suspend fair elections and lead to widespread deprivation of people's political rights. These things are fundamentally tied because in order to do the widespread society-wide transformational economic change that socialist revolutionary leaders promise, you require a highly centralized state with the power to deprive people of equal political representation. You have to invest power in an incredibly centralized new ruling class that controls the resources of the country and redistributes them in a way this new ruling class sees fit. What happens time and time and time again, and it's happened every single time socialism is tried on the scale in human history, is that new ruling class ends up being just as repressive, if not more repressive than the one they overthrew. They end up enriching themselves, as we have seen in Venezuela. It's textbook. Maduro and Chavez before him, these are drug traffickers, these are corrupt people who have enriched themselves, saying that they're doing this for the people, they're taking money from industries and businesses that were hoarding the wealth. No, now they're hoarding the wealth, and what it ends up doing is immiserating the country, and it ruins the economy and causes hyperinflation. So they're mad about many things. They're mad about the economic situation in the country and the political situation, but those things are tied together because that's how socialist governments perform.
I would say that's an oversimplification of many different historical episodes. Can you point to one where a socialist government was democratically elected and then decided to end free elections?
We have Venezuela?
Hugo Chavez did not end democratic elections upon being the leader.
The independent election supervisors have long claimed that have long said
so
that
you don't have any examples.
Government Venezuela is the example.
But Hugo Chavez did not do that upon becoming the leader of Venezuela. So
are you saying Hugo Chavez was democratically elected and there was nothing suspect about any of those elections?
Upon becoming leader, he did not end democratic elections. We also have to understand that a lot of these countries in Latin America were gaining independence from colonial rule. Cuba would be the prime example of this. And so, can you vote yourself out of colonial rule? No, they had to defeat Spain.
Does Cuba have democratic elections?
I'm sorry?
Does Cuba have democratic elections? They've been ruled by the same family for 70 years.
And this is where context is also important. So, the people of Cuba popularly wanted Fidel Castro to push out the United States because when the United States said, yeah, we're going to help Spain get out, Instead, when Spain retreated and was no longer the colonial ruler of Cuba, the United States tried to be the colonial ruler of Cuba, totally going back on their promise of, we want self-determination for you, we want democracy. They saw economic interests in having Cuba controlled by the United States, and so Fidel Castro became a popular figure because he pushed the United States out. And a lot of these countries, Nicaragua is another prime example where, yes, democratic socialists were elected to power, and what did the United States do? They couped the leadership. And so it's very difficult to gain control of your economy and your resources and then constantly be fighting U.S. intervention and the CIA.
You're trying to make me defend something I don't defend. I don't think these places should be colonial, should be colonies of the United States or should be run by the United States or other countries either. I don't support that. I'm not an imperialist. I'm not a neoconservative.
Right,
but I can point out that their own governance is also very bad, as many of the people there feel. They are right now taking to the streets to protest tyranny, and it's perfectly fine to say tyranny is bad. I'm not saying the U.S. should do anything about it. I don't think we should invade Venezuela or Cuba or anyone else. In fact, I think we should normalize trade relationships with Cuba. I'm all for doing that. I'm all for normalizing trade relationships with Venezuela. I think the best thing we can do for the people of these countries is to have greater engagement with them on a voluntary commercial basis, not a militarized basis, not a war-making basis. At the same time, we can be able to call a spade, and leftist tyrannical thugs ruling these, having tin pot dictatorships is obviously what's going on.
So you can criticize Hugo Chavez and similar actors who wanted self-determination for Venezuela. But upon being released from prison in 1994, he did receive a majority of the votes and was democratically elected. He did not end democratic rule upon rising to power. That is how he stayed in power. And that's how he earned 56.2% of the vote, was elected, and then reelected in 2000 with 59.8% of the vote, and again in 2006 with 62.8% of the vote. So it's dishonest to point out that some leaders, upon gaining independence from colonial rule, no, they weren't democratically elected because there was no government before that. And it's difficult to hold elections in a lot of these cases. But upon establishing a new governmental structure, they can establish the systems necessary to hold elections. And that's what we saw in the Congo again with Patrice Lumumba, who fought for independence in the Congo and from Belgium. And Belgium and the United States leveraged to try and control the Katanga region, which is where a lot of the rubber was. That's where a lot of the rubber used to make U.S. tires was coming from. And so the U.S., of course, didn't want Lumumba to become the leader because he promised that the workers in the Congo would no longer be slaves of Belgian rule and they would no longer be extracting their resources. And then he was democratically elected and was assassinated by the CIA, which they've taken credit for. So it's a complicated thing to say that socialism has failed where it was ever tried when the largest military power in the world has intentionally made sure that every socialist leader was overthrown.
I don't think we should overthrow leaders of other countries. I'm against interventionism. I think a lot of U.S. foreign policy has been very, very bad. But I don't think the considerable drawbacks in most genuinely socialist countries. Again, social democracy is fine, but actual socialism where a central committee runs the country usually ends up being horribly repressive, like the Soviet Union or Pol Pot or North Korea. You want a textbook socialist country? It's North Korea. Doesn't want to engage in trade, doesn't involve itself in the international community, has no political rights, and is a weird cult of personality around a single family. They say their ideology is socialism. It is socialism. It is command and control by a single ruling family. It's indistinguishable from monarchy at some point. That's how socialism seems to go. You can certainly have a country that's a social democracy, that is democratic, that has a more generous welfare state and has more strict regulation of businesses. This pertains to many European countries, for example. I wouldn't call their ruling ideology socialism, it's social democracy. There's a difference between the two things.
I think it's easy to say, yes, overthrowing governments is bad, but
it is easy.
What you said was Hugo Chavez was not democratically elected. His rise to power wasn't democratic. And,
it was a coup, and then he was democratically elected, and then
right.
he had the Constitution rewritten so that he could remain in power forever.
And so
there was a significant,
right, and so we have to understand.
I'm not an expert in the history of the constitutional crisis in Venezuela in the aughts, but many people at the time did think he was making anti-democratic moves to stay in power by doing that referendum to extend his power past 10 years and all of that. I mean,
and I already spoke
he rewrote the system of government so that he could stay in power past the term limits. You say, okay, well, he's democratically.
I already spoke to that, Robby, and I think when I say, well, it's dishonest to point out that Hugo Chavez or any leader was not democratically elected when what they had to do was take their country back from external rule, that's a dishonest thing to point out and say, well, that's why socialism is bad. And you're right to point out that an economic system and a political system are different. You can have an economy where the people own the means of production, which is what socialism is. And you can have an authoritarian political system. You can also have a democratic one. That's about how you appoint leaders and decision makers. There are a lot of examples of socialism where it can happen at a hyper-local level, where people are voting where to allocate manpower and resources and labor power. And the United States, because it's controlled by people who own multinational corporations, have money invested in them, and have capital that depends on those multinational corporations controlling resources in foreign countries, that's why we've seen the United States take a vested interest in overthrowing these governments and quashing any idea that socialism is good, because their lifestyle depends on people believing it's bad.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. More Rising right after this.